Addiction has been declared as a chronic brain disease by the World Health Organization. According to the Bhutan Narcotics Control Agency, over 4,900 people have been arrested in cases related to narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances in the last 14 years. We have more on this issue with May Kanzang. As cannabis is largely found in the country, marijuana is the most abused substance, followed by pharmaceutical drugs and solvent. Youth comprises almost 90% of the total abusers. There has also been a significant rise in the number of female substance abusers. Lama Shenpen Zangpo, who has been working with the youth and substance abusers in the country, explains why most of the substance abusers are believed to be in a denial state and how one can convince the addicts from getting rid of addiction.
I think nobody really wants to admit that we have a problem, no? I mean, it's like when we have a stomach ache or toothache, we don't want to go to the dentist or the doctor. We always think it will go away. We think, oh, it's not so bad. I think that's human nature. So, nobody says, oh, I've got a stomach ache or I've got toothache and, I'll go to the dentist, I'll go to the doctor immediately. We think, oh, it'll go away. I'll self-medicate, things like that. I think that's natural. And I think it's the same with addiction. People believe that, oh, it will go away. It's not that bad. I'm not really an addict. So I think that's part of our nature as humans, that we don't want to seek professional help immediately. We think we can deal with it ourselves. If a person who's drinking or taking drugs a lot is not convinced that they've lost control, which means addiction, then they won't seek help. At that point, they'll think, oh, it's okay, I can manage it, I'm not an addict. So you have to use certain techniques, maybe certain questions to make them understand that they really have lost control, they are an addict. And then that the next step is to convince them that they need professional help. Mm-hmm. Because what normally happens is the first stage is they don't think they're an addict, because they slip into it gradually and they always think, oh, I can stop by myself. I'm not addicted yet. So first you have to convince them, yes, you're an addict, but it's okay. Being an addict does not make you a bad person. Mm-hmm. It just means that you have to face some situation, face reality. I give an example. If you're driving from Timbu to Bumtang, for example, and you got to Semtukar, instead of turning left, you got right. So the addict is going right, and at some point you have to convince them that they're going in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah? I mean, the direction makes that they want their lives to be peaceful or whatever, mm-hmm. and to come back. So that's the first step, is to convince them they're going in the wrong direction. So you have to use certain techniques or certain questions to convince them that they really do have a problem and that they cannot stop. So there are certain questions like checklists they can do. Also, you can ask them, okay, you try and stop for a month, try and stop for 6 weeks and see if you can do it. And usually then, of course, they cannot, and then they get a little bit doubt, that they get a doubt that they have a problem. And then the next stage is they say, okay, maybe I am an addict, but I can stop by myself. Then you have to convince them that that's not possible. So the example we often use is like, say, having a toothache. Mm-hmm. So a person who takes a lot of sugar maybe has a toothache. It's not their fault, they got into something and they lost control. But they do have to see a dentist. It's not going to go away. And it's not their fault that they cannot stop toothache by their own will. It's not their fault. That's the nature of the disease. So addiction is also a disease, and you cannot stop it by your own will. So again, we have to use a lot of examples to convince them that they cannot stop addiction by themselves. They do need professional help. But to make them understand it's not their fault. It doesn't make them a weak person that they can't stop by their will. It's just the nature. It's a disease like any other disease. So those two steps, basically. And then next, to convince them to go to rehab.
Generally, most of the abusers abusing drugs and alcohol are said to be in their early 30s. As per Lama Shenpen's experiences, he says it could be because of failed marriages.
I think from my experience, I notice a lot of family problems. I see a recurring case where the kid will say that it's a stepmother or stepfather problem. I hear that a lot. I've not done research, but when I talk to the kids, I say, how is your situation at home? Oh, my stepmother's not caring, my stepfather's not taking care. And then, of course, dropping out of school, not wanting to go home. When you don't want to go home, you hang out with friends. When you hang out with friends, if your friends are using drugs, then of course you use drugs. So I would appeal to anybody who's a stepmother or stepfather, please consider that child as your own. I mean, they're little children, and please don't discriminate. To be honest, the families need to maybe start families later, I would say. I see a lot of young girls who are getting children and they're not ready for them. They get in a relationship. Within a year, I see the guy saying, this is my girlfriend or this is my boyfriend. Say, oh, okay, good, you got a boyfriend, you got a relationship. Then next thing she's pregnant, and then within a year she's had the child, and then they're divorced. And then if she is not educated, or he or whoever gets the child, they take another partner because of economic reasons or to help with the child. And the next partner may not be appropriate to look after the child. So I would suggest through education we tell the kids to try first to stay in a relationship longer. Until you get to know that person, until you really understand that, that you are suited to each other. And then if you do decide to get married, then at least wait until you are settled, till you've got a good job or you finished your education and a little bit settled, maybe got an apartment or whatever, and then have a child, not the child at the beginning. Because I see a lot of children are coming maybe too early, before the parents are ready for them. And so you don't blame the parents, they're just immature and they don't know. And then that child might be the next generation of addict because they were not cared for. So I would say later, keep the kids, try to persuade the children through school to have longer relationships. Yeah, don't have a child at the beginning.
Jigme Yusel is a recovering addict. He shares about what really happened to him in the past.
When I first started abusing substance, I think I was 12 years old. At first, I just started with my friends, thinking it was fun. But as time passed by, I was caught in the web of addiction, and I could not come out easily. I had to undergo so many difficulties, like withdrawals, even hallucinations, and I nearly died because of that. So it was actually not that fun once you are really into it. Yes, I did relapse. I was in a rehab. I stayed there for 3 months. And then when I came out, I was sober and clean for a year. And then again I relapsed. But again I'm back in the right track because of my counselors, my personal counselors. They were very supportive and they were always by my side, guiding me. And now I'm strong. It is possible for a person to recover because there are living examples. When we went to India for a convention, I saw a man who was 70 or 80 years old, and he was clean and sober for more than 50 years. So by looking at them, we feel it is possible for someone to recover and get recovered in his lifetime. The support from friends and family are very important since addiction is a family disease. The whole family gets affected if a member of their family is an alcoholic or an addict. The whole family suffers, has to go through all the difficulties and all the problems that the addict creates. So family support is very, very important. And in my case, I had both the support from my family. They were very supportive, and especially my mom. She was very, very supportive. She would always be there for me. She would always encourage me to do good things, and she's always positive. Whatever I do, she would be always positive. She would be always giving me positive advices, saying that you can do it, and then one day that you will do great things in life. And that the family and friends support. Friends also, if you hang out with your old using friends, I think there are high chances for you to relapse also. So you have to be very careful in choosing your friends as well.
Like any other chronic diseases, Lama Shenfen says professional treatment is must for drug and alcohol addictions.
If they get, say, for example, alcohol, if you stop suddenly by yourself, it can actually be dangerous. You can get a seizure. So you really do have to go to detox. For drug addiction, if they go through the withdrawal, which is very tough, it's very unlikely that they'll get through all the pain themselves. But even if they do, for example, if they got locked up in jail and they go cold turkey and then they stop using, when they come out, they're very likely to start again because they don't know how to stay clean. Because in rehab basically is only a place to teach them how to stay clean. It's like going to college. So without those skills, without that knowledge, they're not going to make it. Basically, they'll go back to old habits when they get confused, when they get depressed, when they get lonely, when problems arise. Like all of us, we run for our bolt hole. We try to find somewhere secure. And for a recovering addict, that will always be drugs or alcohol. So it's essential. I would say it's almost impossible to stop a chronic addiction without having professional help, meaning rehab.
With this, we come to the end of this week's health program. Thanks very much for listening. Until next week with yet another program, this is goodbye from me, your host, Kunjal.